Welcome to a 5-minute major with Hockey Wanderlust. As always, these 5-minute majors sometimes turn into 10-minute misconducts. Rob Simpson here in Toronto. I bring along Risto Packarainen in Stockholm, the man with the long hair.
Hi there. Hi, Sarah.
How you doing? I got long hair only because of COVID. There's been no barbers for a year. Our friend in Zurich, the coach of the Lions, joins us, Rikard Grönborg, who has the whole beard thing going on right now, a little playoff beard. How are you, Coach?
Excellent, thank you. We do have barbers here, so I've been there quite frequently. It's pretty nice.
We want to talk a little bit about a poll that came out a few days ago from ESPN that says you're one of the top, if not you were the first name listed in terms of NHL coaching prospects that currently obviously aren't coaching right now in that league. We'll get to that in a second, but start with your Zurich Lions out in the semifinals this year. Talk a little bit about your team and about that league in a very weird season.
It was a tough year, and I like to plan. I like to have the things set and ordered, and obviously I learned quite a bit of kind of living in the moment. So it was an interesting season with a very, really tough schedule right after Christmas because we need to make up all those games that we lost because of the quarantines. Sitting 20 days in quarantine is tough. So it was an interesting season. It was like I said, I learned tons of the character of the team, the character of the players, the character of the staff. So it was an interesting journey to do.
A lot of people know you from Team Sweden, obviously, and they have seen your name on not only lists but many lists as a future NHL coach. But I was wondering if you could rewind a little bit and tell us how you got into coaching in the first place.
I was playing home in Sweden by that time. I was playing Hammarby my last year. I'm sure you're aware of this since you live in Stockholm. It's one of the classic teams in Sweden. So I just headed back after college. I played at St. Cloud State NCAA for 3 seasons, and then I decided to go back home and play for a couple of years. And I still had some school left, so I decided to retire after that year. I was only 25, or I think I was about to turn 26, and I wanted to finish my school. So I retired, and I moved back to Minnesota and started school. And when I got to school there, I wanted to go down and say hi to the players because the seniors that year were actually freshmen my senior year. So I was going to go down and say hi to those guys. And of course, it was the same coaching staff there. And after sitting down with the coaches, they say, "Hey, you're a pretty smart player. You should come down and help out, push some pucks." And I said, I'm not really interested in coaching because I had no planning of becoming a coach, or I wasn't even thinking about that at that time. But after been thinking about it for a couple of weeks, I went down again. I said, you know what, I want to do that. Some kind of a transition year or whatever you want to do from retiring and playing. And here I'm sitting 30 years later of still involved in hockey, and obviously it was a fun, interesting journey so far.
What did you study?
My bachelor's I have in mass communications, public relations, and I have a master's in management. So it was a lot of years of school, but at the same time I was coaching at that point in time too. So it was an interesting, fun, and challenging time.
But at the same time, pretty useful combo for a head coach, management and public relations.
Yeah, and especially when I came over, obviously learning English, expressing myself, not only verbally but also in writing and speaking and speech, because growing up in Sweden at that point in time, we didn't really do much of that. So it was important for me to get English classes, and mass communications was obviously a perfect way for me to get into to get better in that, and also obviously management, a lot of leadership classes. How do you the group dynamics, etc. So it was very much of what I learned during that time is something that I'm still utilizing as of today.
I know you married an American gal. Your agent, Neil Glassberg, is a Canadian guy, and he took you around and introduced you to some of the folks, I think, a year or two ago. What do you think? What goes through your mind now when you see a poll come out and then your name is listed first as a potential NHL head coach?
Yeah, obviously it's very flattering that people think highly of. Obviously, I've been around in the international scene for a long time. I've been around younger players. I've been around obviously international players, and as you can see in the league right now in the NHL, there's a lot of young players, a lot of international players. So I think, and I'm saying international players, international lineups, right now is not just players from Canada like it maybe was 15, 20 years ago. And it's a wild variety of what the players are coming from. I mean, U.S. is now pumping out players as well. So, and if you see if my background, I've been coaching U.S. college, I've been coaching in Western Hockey League in Canada, I've been coaching internationally. So it's pretty natural, I think, people that are intrigued with my profile and where I'm coming from. So that's one part of it. And obviously, I think when you do have success, and I've been fortunate to be head coach for a very successful team in Team Sweden, I think it's also natural. So again, I'm very flattered. I think obviously I haven't coached in the NHL, but it's something that any coach at any level, it's something you aspire to, of course.
I imagine ultimately, the X's and O's is one thing, but in a situation like this, breaking into the quote unquote old boys network, or just the fact that all those guys have relationships, that's probably the number one hurdle, right?
Yeah, perhaps. I think any GM right now or any executive making these type of decisions, they need to, I think they need to look at the roster, see where they're at, see what the needs from that coach or that team, what they need from the coach. And I think that's the new approach. And it's already been a few college coaches breaking into the league. There's been play or coaches with a little different background. And I think next step is looking over to Europe, because obviously Europe has been a very good producer of hockey players, and also been having a very successful national team at a national level. So I think it's pretty natural that obviously the talk of new if you like new coaches coming in, and I think that's just a healthy way. I mean, it was probably nothing different from players coming in from Europe 20-25 years ago, from Czech Republic, Russia, Sweden, or Finland, whatever you're from. So I think this is the next step that executives are looking into.
You have some good ambassadors out in the NHL already, because all the players that you've coached, many of them, if not most, I'm not sure, I haven't talked to most of them, but many that I've talked to do speak very highly of you. And I remember 2016, I was talking to Henrik Lundqvist before the World Cup, and I was trying to get him to explain to me what it was with you that was so different from your predecessors and other coaches that he'd had, and he couldn't really explain it to me, but there was something about the mix of being a Swede and having the American background and all that. Can you try to explain what it is that makes you stand out from other Swedish coaches?
Well, I see myself as more of a hybrid. I think I have my Swedish ways, obviously born and raised in Sweden, but I also coached in the U.S. for 20 years and in the Canadian Hockey League. So it's I think it's the hybrid situation for myself, for my background as is, and also I think my background in communications, and I think it's so important right now to be able to communicate something, to also be really good in group dynamics, in individual development of players. But if you're not communicative enough to express yourself in an environment around players, and obviously you're talking about high quality players that I've been fortunate enough to coach, I think it'd be really tough to be, especially a head coach. Like Rob started out with the X and O's and everything else. Yeah, I think anyone at this level, they know their X and O's. It's just a question of how do you get the players, individual players, to buying into a group dynamic with the rest of the team. I think that's the biggest key for a successful team. And I pride myself in having interest in the individual player, as well as I understand that it's a team sport. So I think it's a combination of being working what I like a flat organization to a certain degree, what the Swedes are working in. But also there's the North American side of me. I have no problems making decisions. As soon as I decide to do something, I'm doing it, and I'm making decisions. So I think that the combination, and that's what I'm talking about, hybrid side of myself.
Coach, well, let's see if the list comes true. That'd be rather nice. And we wish you nothing but the best with that. I assume you're under contract to the Zurich Lions if you were not to get an NHL job, but you'd obviously be able to jump over if that opportunity arose, right?
Yeah, no, I'm very happy. I think this is the Toronto Maple Leafs of Europe, if you like. This is a really successful organization, and it's a high pressure job, which I wanted. You need to deliver here, so have all the aspects of something I really look forward to coach, and I've been here for this is my second year here. So yeah, I'm happy here.
Rikard, thank you very much. Good luck with everything.
Yeah, thanks for having me.